I watched 10 films in January that I had never seen before, and I am here as usual to talk to you about my feelings and my thoughts. So let's get into it. Hello lovely people, happy February. I hope that you've gotten through the first month of the year somewhat intact, even with the fucking crazy things happening in the world right now. I hope you're hanging in there and doing your best. It's all you can really do at this point. For those of you who have sharp eyes, you can see that I'm in a fully different environment than I was last time, and it is because I moved finally to my own flat and I'm living alone now. And it's so refreshing and so exciting, and I just have my own routines and I don't need to care about anybody else except my downstairs neighbors. It's looking pretty good considering the fact that I literally moved like 4 days ago. It's still a little bit naked. I don't have a TV stand. I don't have a couch, so I'm just sat on the floor. Yeah, I hope to do a little flat tour when it comes together a little bit more. But for now, we will stick to the agenda for today. AKA, we're chatting about movies again. I know that's right. You know that's right as well. And I will suggest once again that you sit down and grab your drinks and your snacks, because this may be a bit of a long one. And I'll start by recapping this month's theme. If you watch my previous video, you will know that the challenge that I'm doing this year involves doing like a specific theme for each month. And last month in January, I was just picking movies off of my watch list. I decided I would start the year off easy and literally just pick off movies from my watch list that I've been meaning to see for a long time, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And I do have a few movies that also came out in Finland in January, and I've been waiting to watch them for a while, so I did include those as well. But yeah, if you want to know all of the rules and the details of my film watching challenge this year, the details are in my 2025 film recap video. So you can go back there and rewatch that, or watch that if you haven't seen it before, to get the full rundown of the challenge that I'm doing. But in this video, I'm just gonna recap the 10 movies that I watched in January that are from my watch list. Also, just a disclaimer, kind of, these are all just my opinions. I'm not telling you if the movie is objectively good or bad. I'm not trying to discourage you from watching any of these. If you are interested in the premise, please just take my opinions as a little note, or with a grain of salt. You might fully enjoy a movie that I didn't really like, or you might not really enjoy a movie that I really loved. So yeah, please just take these opinions as what they are, aka my opinions. And if I accidentally insult your favorite movie, I'm really sorry, don't come for me. It might just be that my frontal lobe hasn't quite developed enough and I didn't fully grasp the big brain concept of that film. And I will be once again cheating off of my laptop that's just down here, and my little journal that I use to take notes when I'm watching anything. So if you see me looking in this direction, I'm just looking at my laptop. But I'll just start off by listing the 10 films that I watched. I may or may not butcher some of these directors' names, so please bear with me on that. The 10 movies that I watched in January were No Other Choice by director Chan-wook, Pan's Labyrinth by director Guillermo del Toro, Worst Person in the World by director Joachim, Amelie by director Jean-Pierre Jeunet, Kalevala, Kullervon, Tarina by director Antti Jokinen, About Time by director Richard Curtis, Marty Supreme by director Josh Safdie, Entergalactic by director Fletcher, Moules, The Voice of Hind, Rajab by director Kaouther Hania, and Sorry to Bother You by director Boots Riley. I'm very excited to talk about some of these films and less excited to talk about some others, but you'll find out why. As you can see, I really tried to kind of curate a list of films that is thematically a little bit all over the place. I didn't want to watch a bunch of films that are about the same thing or that are super similar, so I wanted to create kind of a group that has all kinds of different films about all kinds of different things and stories, so that if you're interested in watching any of them, you can kind of just pick out your favorite ones and go see them and then tell me what you think. Of course. I could probably make a full video out of most of these films, but I'm gonna try and keep my thoughts to the bare minimum. And then if you are interested in one of the films specifically, please come ask me and I'll talk to you more about it. We can arrange sometimes. I can do like an open office little Zoom situation. I am gonna kick it off just by revealing all of my ratings for each film now. Editor, please place my ratings on the screen. So my lowest rated movie last month was 2 stars, but we did also have a few 5-star ratings as well, which is very exciting. I will say I've been historically a little bit inconsistent when it comes to ratings because I really just base them on vibes, like after I'm done watching a film. And sometimes I feel like going back and changing them later. So really the ratings aren't that important, and I'm gonna try and put less importance on the ratings this year as well, because really in the end it's just a made-up number, and what matters is my thoughts and my feelings about the film. So please don't take the ratings too seriously. They're really just fun numbers to look at, like statistics situation. Please just focus more on what I actually say about each film later on and less on the actual ratings. Oh, I will also say I was really pleased with the variety of different languages that I was getting in these films last month. If you watch my previous video, you will know that I had one of my goals for this year to be watching more non-English speaking films, and I think I got a majority of non-English speaking films last year. So 6 of the ones that I watched were not in English, and I was very pleased with that. Anyways, let's get into my actual thoughts regarding each film. I'm gonna go in chronological order of watching them. So first up, the first film that I watched this year was No Other Choice, 어쩔 수 없다, by the director Park Chan-wook of Oldboy and Handmaiden fame. And I really just started this year off in such a good way. Like, I could not have imagined a better way to start off this year. This film is amazing. If you've seen it, you will know, but if you haven't, you had better run to whatever website you use to watch these films and watch it tonight. Make time tonight to watch this film and really watch it. Like, really pay attention. Don't just be like doom scrolling on your phone while you're watching it. Really like pay attention, really focus, because it's so good. It's kind of really dark, obviously. The themes that it deals with and the social commentary in it is pretty dark, but like, you're still rooting for the main character. Like, I loved the main character. He's so goofy and funny, even though he's fucking murdering people. It's so good. I feel like what really got me in the mood before even starting the film was I already knew that Park Chan-wook only makes good films, so I already knew going into this that it was going to be fucking good. So I could just sit back and relax and enjoy what was unraveling in front of my eyes, and it was crazy. It was crazy. It was a little bit of a melting pot of contradictions. Wow, big word. Because it was like heartfelt and funny and genuine, and then also gruesome and dark and very black humor and social commentary. The editing, the film, the way that some of these shots had been edited together. There's a shot towards the end of the film where a policeman is looking at an iPad and looking at like evidence on the iPad, and we can see what he's looking at on the screen of the iPad, and then also the reflection of his face and his reaction on the screen at the same time. And the editing is just like, and the setups of some of the shots are just so creative. I've never in my life seen anything like that before, and it was just so gorgeous, so gorgina. I am gonna say just a little bit about the plot just to get you guys interested if you haven't seen it. It's about a father of a family, and he loses his job at a paper making factory, and it is basically about him struggling to find work first and struggling to feed his family and to keep them all afloat, and then eventually he decides that the best course of action is just to eliminate his competition by shooting them. / killing them. Yeah, yeah. So he is committing crime, but you kind of still root for him because you understand where he's coming from on such a deep level, and you understand his desperation and his need to take care of his family. So you just kind of root for him even though he's killing people. It was amazing. Obviously Lee Byung-hun is a great actor, so you already knew he was going to do a great job. And Son Ye-jin, who plays his wife, also does a fantastic job with that character. Yeah, actually everybody in the film is amazing. I was really shocked when the Oscar nominations came out and the film didn't get any nominations, and that really just like solidifies for me the fact that the Academy actually doesn't know anything, and they actually don't really care about what films are actually good, and they kind of suck. Yeah, I said it. At the very least, it needed to get best editing. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean, but if you haven't, please just watch it, even if it's just for the editing in this film. It is so good. It was beautiful. It was great. I highly recommend. 10 out of 10, and I gave it 5 stars. So wrap it up. Next up we have Pan's Labyrinth, aka El Labyrinth del Fauno by Guillermo del Toro. And now listen, don't come for me, but I didn't really know much about this film before watching it, and based on the description of it on Letterboxd, I thought that this was gonna be like a cute little like kids fantasy little, I mean, it's called Pan's Labyrinth. I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna be like a fantasy film with like mythological aspects, like cute. It was not. It was not that. It was sad, depressing, freaky, violent, and not a kid's fantasy film at all. So please don't be fooled like I was. I was writing down notes in my book here as I was watching it, and I wrote down nastiness level here is off the charts. And that's really all you need to know. This entire film was just nowhere near what I was expecting. It kind of just surprised me a lot, and I don't know if it's because it was so different from what I was expecting, but I couldn't really fully get into it. There were just a few things plot-wise that I feel like didn't really make sense based on what I knew about the characters, like within their character development arc. Cinematically, it's a beautiful film. You can really see like Guillermo's vision and his aesthetic, like the dark aesthetic that he's known for. It comes through really well in this film. So if you're a fan of his work, you would probably like this. But I think just story-wise, there were a few things that didn't really line up for me and didn't really make sense. So I couldn't fully get into the film. What I did love about this film is that it's set in like post-Civil War kind of dictator era Spain, which I thought was very interesting because I haven't seen anything set in that kind of historical era of Spanish history. So I thought that was really great. I also have to say Ophelia, the main character, the little kid character, was pissing me off a few, like, it's allowed because she's a child. She made stupid decisions a few times, but she was just like really doing me in. I was practically yelling at her through my screen, like trying to get into her head, and she wouldn't listen to me, and that pissed me off, because had she listened to me, to my advice, we would never have been in the mess that we were, and that's a bit unfortunate. I do think that it was really quite a smart decision to have the film be from Ophelia's POV, because it makes the story that much more heartbreaking. It really just like reinforces the message of the film to have it be from a child's point of view. It's a very interesting story, very cinematically beautiful and very typical to Guillermo's style of work. And that's all I'll say. Next up we have The Worst Person in the World, or Världens värsta människa, by Joachim Trier, a Norwegian director. Now, if you saw my previous video, you would have seen that I watched Sentimental Value last year. So I was very excited to watch more of Joachim's work. And Spoiler, I fucking loved it. I fucking loved this movie. I really liked Sentimental Value, but I think this is better. I fucking love Norwegian, first of all. First of all, this movie would not work if it wasn't in Norwegian. If it was in another language, I don't think it would hit as hard. Sue me. One thing about me is I fucking love the sound of Norwegian. I think it's the funniest language in the world. I love it so much. I love listening to it. Just purely the fact that this movie was in Norwegian already did it for me. This movie was exactly what I was talking about in my previous video when I said that when you're watching films, sometimes you get glimpses into other people's lives and you get to know about experiences that you personally have never been through and you wouldn't know about unless you watched a film or read a book that is grappling with that issue or that kind of life experience. This is exactly the type of film that I meant when I said that. It's just so real and relatable. I think Renate Reinsve did a fantastic job with the character, just making her feel relatable and likable. And she's just lost in life. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with herself. She changes career paths a bunch of times. She's dealing with her parents' expectations, her own expectations for herself. And I feel like that's just such a well-known feeling for a lot of my generation. And I think there's a lot of young people out there who can relate to that. It's a story about trying to find your own identity as a young person, trying to fit in to society, trying to conform to society's expectations of you, trying to become who your parents want you to be or who society thinks that you should be, and dealing with the relationships around you at the same time, and trying to do the right thing and ending up doing the wrong thing and then feeling like the worst person in the world. I think it's a really common feeling for a lot of young people to feel like you are the worst person ever. And I just feel like this movie was a bit of a reminder that, first of all, you're nowhere near the worst person in the world, and also you're not alone in feeling the way that you do. And in that sense, I found this movie really comforting. Next up, we have the film Amelie. Let me tell you, I've been trying to watch this film for actually years, but I haven't been able to find it on any streaming platforms except French Netflix, but it doesn't have subs and I don't speak French. But I was finally able to find this on the Marty Plus website, fully subbed to English. So if you need it, and it's free, if you need to see it, it's on Marty Plus. It's fantastic. I fully highly recommend you support the Marty Plus website. I was so happy when I was finally able to watch this because it is such a comfort movie. It really just feels like a warm hug. If you've seen it, you'll know, but this is literally the perfect film. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Go open the door right now. The sink is waiting. I love the way they introduce all of the characters in this film by like little small quirks that they have, instead of telling us their like the boring information about them, like what they do for work and where they're from and their names and blah blah blah. The things that they've picked to tell us about these characters say so much more about who they are. So about Amelie's dad, they said that he likes taking out all of his tools out of his toolbox and reorganizing the toolbox, putting everything back. And I just loved that. Gave it such a personal touch, and I loved that instantly from like the first 5 minutes I was hooked. I was locked in. It also made me wonder what small little quirk about me would that film pick to introduce me with that would tell you all you needed to know about me as a character. It made me wonder. In general about this film, I just loved the way it kind of demonstrated how we're all connected in these random ass ways as a community, and how my actions, even though I think it's a small thing to do for somebody else, can really change someone else's life. I'll say a little bit about the plot. Basically, Amelie's life is changed one day when she finds a little box of mementos in her apartment, and she decides to figure out who it belonged to and then give it back to that person. And then she realizes she has kind of a knack for helping other people in random ways, and she goes about doing that, and then simultaneously she finds fulfillment and happiness in her own life. It just kind of shows how all of the people around her in her apartment complex and at her work are connected, and how she can help to make them happy by doing really tiny, seemingly unimportant things or like minuscule things, and it's so cute. And the color grading and everything is just so comforting, and it's in French, it's in Paris, it's so like, go watch it right now. It's so good. You'll love it, I swear. I promise. Okay, this next one, I will need to take some time to calm myself down first, before and after saying what I'm gonna say, because the next film actually made me mad. It is by Antti Jokinen, who is a very famous Finnish director, and this film has been promoted as like the blockbuster of a century. It is based on Finnish mythology, and it was not good. Right, first of all, the film is called Kalevala Kullervon Tarina, for those who don't know much about Finnish history or Finnish literature. Kalevala is basically our national epic story. You could think of it as like the Iliad or Odyssey of Finland. It's really important. It's kind of like a literary cornerstone of our culture. Like she's massively important for the culture. Right. Kullervo is one of the characters in that story, and so this film is a reenactment, an adaptation of his story within the national epic story, if that makes sense. But this book, Kalevala, it includes a lot of Finnish mythology in the form of poetry and songs that had been passed down from generation to generation just through singing the poetry out loud. There was the author of this book kind of just traveled all around Eastern Finland to collect all of these stories, and the collection of poetry is what he made into Kalevala, basically. This is a very culturally significant piece of literature. So of course, forgive me for hoping that this film would also be a culturally significant piece of work. Culturally significant she is not. I was so disappointed. It's fucking boring. First of all, this film committed the worst possible sin that any form of entertainment can do. It was fucking boring. I was sat there in that cinema. Mind you, it was pretty much opening day and it was empty in there. I was falling asleep. By the time we were halfway through this film, I was ready to leave. How can you take an adaptation about an epic story full of like whimsy and magic and mythology and like witchcraft and shit and fucking make it boring? Mr. Director, I would like a word. I'll meet you anywhere and we can have a word, because this movie was not good. I found out that this movie has been planned for 20 years. Yeah, 20 years you've been planning this movie for, and that's what you come up with? Oh, okay. And mind you, the budget for this film was 5 million euros. Now, I can think of about 30 different things just off the top of my head that are better uses for 5 million euros than this film. Okay, hey, it's me editing. I would like to go on record to say this is no hate at all to any of the actors in this movie. I truly thought that most actors and actresses did a really nice job. All of this hate, well, all of this criticism is directed at the director of the film. I have no hate whatsoever against the actual actors. I think they did a great job, but Mr. Director, you and me could talk. There are barely any mythological aspects in this film. There's no mention that I can think of any of the gods that the pagan people of Finland used to believe in. There's no whimsy. There's barely any sorcery. The film has no sauce. There's no flavor. There's no seasoning. And that was my biggest issue. Also, it is very clear to me that this film was directed by a man in the worst possible way. Another issue I had was, if you're gonna make a film based on Kalevala, which I think it's a fantastic idea. I love that idea. I think it's great. I think we as a Finnish people deserve a fantastic film based on that book. However, if you're gonna pick a character from Kalevala to base your film around, it should not be Kullervo. There's so many other more interesting characters in that book that you could choose to adapt. I don't know why they picked this guy, but also the other issue I had was his actual story is way more interesting than the film. Like, they took a story that's decently interesting, you could probably make a good film about it, and they took that story, they somehow modified it to be less compelling, and they made a not even mediocre film about it. Most of the shots in the film are literally just beautiful scenery, surroundings around where they were filming. I understand. I do get it, because this film was largely sponsored by like an organization that supports travel to Eastern Finland. So I get that you need to have a certain quota of like beautiful travel shots to advertise, to encourage people to travel there, because that's the goal of the sponsor. Like, I get that, that's fine. But then just make a really nice nature documentary. Like, I would rather watch that than this. During the film, like in the cinema, I just pulled out my phone and was Googling some of the historical inaccuracies that I found and the plot holes and stuff. I was just Googling it, not even paying attention to the film because it was so boring. I don't ever do that. I'm not the type of person who just is on their phone in the cinema. Like, I don't condone that, but this movie drove me to that. It was so bad. All in all, I would like a word with the director. I think he didn't have the courage to take any creative direction with this film. I don't think he knew what he was doing. Mind you, the last project that he worked on, he was dismissed from it for not following safety guidelines for the actors on set. He was dismissed. Right. Okay, cool. So that already tells me I can't trust you. And then you make a snooze fest like this from fantastic source material. Yeah, that should tell you enough. The next film that I watched, on a positive note from that previous one, was About Time. I loved About Time. It was so good. I think this movie kind of broke me a little bit, because I'm not gonna go into the plot of it because I would rather you find out for yourself. It's one of those films I think it's better if you don't know anything about it going into it. But one of the major relationships that it centers on is the relationship between the main character and his dad. And the dad is played by Bill Nye. And if you need to know one thing about me, is that I fucking love Bill Nye. I think he's a fantastic actor, and anything that he is in, I will watch. As somebody who lost her dad at a young age, that son and dad relationship dynamic, I sobbed pretty much the whole film through. I'm glad that when I watched this film, I was still living back home, so I didn't have any neighbors who heard me watch this film, because I sobbed throughout the whole thing pretty much. It's such a heartfelt movie. All of the exploration of the characters and the relationships, the dynamics between them is just lovely, and it's so heartbreaking. I can't think too hard on it because I will actually start crying right now. It was everything to me. The last scene, if you watched it, again, you'll know. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? The last scene with the main character and his dad on the beach. Guys, cut the cameras. It's a really endearing, comforting film, and it has an interesting premise. It has a little bit of magic. The men in the main character's family all have a specific like supernatural ability / power, and that's kind of where the film takes off, and it really centers on the main character learning how to use his power in the best way, pretty much, and learning lessons about life at the same time. And I was sold pretty much from the get-go. It's fantastic. Please go watch it. Okay, next up we have Marty Supreme, which was kind of so crazy. It only came out halfway through January here in Finland, and me and my friends went to see it on opening night, I think. It may have been opening night, but just from the intro, of this movie, if you don't know, it is a bunch of sperm swimming for the egg while the introduction credits are coming on. From that moment, you already know it's gonna be a wild ride. I thought it was fantastic. Some of the jokes in there are so fucking insane. There's a joke about the Holocaust. Again, I didn't know much about this film going into it. I thought it was gonna be like a fun little sports movie. All I knew is that it's about ping pong and it had Timothy Chalamet in it. I thought it was gonna gonna be like a cute little rags to riches like sports success story, and instead it was a 2-hour crash out. It was a crash out. I think me and my friends were gagged thoroughly and repeatedly throughout this film. It was very entertaining. I thought the point of view of the film was really interesting because it was set in the 50s, but the music was like 80s synth pop-esque, and it felt really modern. I don't know how to explain it, but just the point of view of the film made it feel really, really modern, even though it was set in the 50s. It might as well have been set last year. Kind of 50s, kind of 80s with a modern story. Take from that what you will. I thought the writing of the film was super clever. I thought the dialogue was amazing. Unfortunately, even though I do think that Timothée Chalamet comes off a little bit cocky sometimes and a little bit obnoxious, he did a great job. He did do a great job. He played that character so well that it was kind of awful. He was absolutely unbearable and selfish and obnoxious and an awful person, but he did a great job. He did a great job. To quote Charlie XCX's Letterboxd review, even the fucking dog was good. And it's true, even the fucking dog did a performance of a lifetime in his role. I also think this will be way better at a rewatch. I think whenever I end up rewatching this, I think I'll like it even more because I will have had some time to digest everything that's gonna happen, and I get to go a little bit deeper into all of the themes that it explores and notice a little bit more of the details in the film as well. Little Timmy did his big one with this, I guess. Next up is a film that I actually only semi-recently found out about. It's called Entergalactic. I think this is one of those films that Netflix just kind of quietly dropped onto their platform and didn't really advertise or tell anyone about it because it came out in 2022 and I only heard about it like halfway through last year or something. Or maybe I just live under a rock. You never know. But this is a animated rom-com. I think that animation is a superior medium. I think any film is better animated. I think everybody should just start making animated films and stop with the shitty live actions. At you, Disney. When I heard that this was an animated rom-com with Kid Cudi's music in the soundtrack, I was already fully in. I had very high expectations going in, and I think that may have been my issue because it was a little bit boring. It was a tiny boring, and it just like it upset me a little bit because it had so much potential. I think the characters were really great. I think the animation was amazing. It's beautiful, obviously. I do just think the first half especially was a little bit boring. I liked their romance, but I feel like just from a dramatic curve perspective, like the conflict that they had within their relationship really wasn't conflict enough. Like the big issue that they had is that main guy received, mind you, an unsolicited sext or like a kind of a nude from his ex, and then his girlfriend saw it and she was angry. Understandably, she was upset about it, and that was the whole like big conflict that they had. I really want to let it slide because the soundtrack was amazing, the animation was beautiful, I loved the vibes and I loved the characters, but the story was just like, I feel like it just deserved a better story. I really wanted to like this film. I really wanted to love it. I wish I could sit here right now and tell you this was the best film I've ever seen in my life. But it had so much potential! Yeah. I didn't really know how to feel about it for a while because it was good. I feel like it could have been great. 2 more films to go. Next up, I went to see The Voice of Hind Rajab on the day that it came out here in Finland. There isn't much that I can say about this film because I don't really want to diminish the effect that this film had on me, and I don't want to say something that won't do the film justice. Like this is a film that everybody on this earth needs to see, and if you haven't watched it, I urge you to please go watch it. It is such a beautifully well done, well executed film about quite literally the most important theme that you could possibly imagine. It should be mandatory viewing for every person ever. It was absolutely beyond heartbreaking. I think that it's like 10 or 15 minutes in that you first hear the voice of Hind. It's a real voice recording of her call, and I started crying, and I didn't stop crying until after the movie was over. If you do get a chance to see it, please go, please watch it, and please do everything and anything that you can to help Palestinian families. Free Palestine. I can't really say much more. Please just watch this film. Is probably the most important film of this century. Lastly, I will finish off by talking about Sorry to Bother You, which is another film that I really didn't know anything about going into it, and I love watching films like that. That's why one of my categories for, I think, September this year is just blind recommendations. So going in to watch films without knowing anything about the plot, that is my favorite viewing experience. And this is a film that my friend Gwen, hi Gwen, recommended that I watch last year in January, and a year later I finally did. And I'm so happy that I did, because this was a wild ride. It was so outrageous. I don't really want to say much about the plot because I would rather you guys not know anything and just go watch it and tell me what you think. I think this is definitely going to be a film that I want to show other people and like want to see their reactions when they first watch it, because it's just so outrageous, and so some of the things that happen in this film are just so incomprehensible. Like I was sat there watching it and I really feel like I needed an oh my fucking god counter, because I think I said what the fuck is happening, oh my fucking god, like 47 times. How did that person who wrote this film come up with this? Like, how did they sit down to write this film and they went, oh, this is what should happen next? Like, I really just want to have a chat with the director and the writer of this film, because it was so beyond something that I would ever have been able to produce myself. Like, I would never, ever come up with anything like this. In the best way. I love being surprised by movies like that. If you have an idea in your mind about what you think this film is gonna be, it won't be like that. It's not gonna be like that. It's definitely not that. Like, whatever you can imagine that this film is gonna be, it's not that. It's not. Trust me on this one. I screamed. Again, I was happy I didn't have any neighbors when I watched this, because I was yelling, outraged. The only complaint that I had is I felt like the last few scenes were a little bit anticlimactic for the build-up in the third act. Like, I thought that the build-up towards the end was fantastic and so strange, but then the final like climax, I suppose, of the film was a little bit meh for me. It fell flat a little bit. That's totally okay, because when I think about the film now, like looking back at it now, I don't even remember being disappointed by the ending, because everything that came before that was just so crazy. Okay, we've come to the end of my recap. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that you got at least one film that you maybe want to watch in the future. Maybe you hated all of my recommendations. That's okay too. I'm really excited already for my February movies. You'll find out next month, I guess. Make sure to come back. Just to give you a reminder, in February I'm watching films about love. That can be any type of love, of course, not just romantic. Any type of love is fully welcome here. If you have any recommendations, please drop them below. I do have a very long list for February, so either I'm gonna have to pick and choose a lot, or I'll come back in March with like 20 films to run through. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you have any opinions about the films that I just yapped about, please drop them in the comments or send me a message. I would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, please come back next month. I'll be making sure that you do. I'll be individually messaging every single person who doesn't come back next month. I see you. I see you. JK, of course I won't do that. But yeah, I'll see you next time.